Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Oof, what a day. So much to talk about, so much to get through tonight. Iran launching missiles at Israel. We'll show it to you, we'll get reaction, we'll probably go to the phones so you guys can weigh in on the conversation. And then at 9 p.m., we will, I think, pick up the feed for the vice presidential debate. Walz and Vance facing off, head to head. We'll touch on that, have a little bit of a discussion tonight. Take a look at what we might expect to unfold during that debate. Will it even be consequential? I don't know. Vice President, I don't know. I think a lot of people will be paying attention to it, but I don't know how much impact it will have overall. Maybe if some knockout blow is delivered by one or the other, it looks like Vance might be going in with a little bit of an advantage because they've indicated they have a vulnerability they might focus on. I'll tell you what that is later in the program. So we have all that. Just other stuff too. P. Diddy. I guess he's looking at a lot more charges or allegations and potentially more charges. Like a lot more allegations of sexual crimes. Man, what a strange world. What a dangerous place we live in today. So stay with me. We have a lot to get through tonight, and you get to be part of it.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV.
The entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Today, Iran launched a massive attack on Israel. 180, approximately, missiles fired, and it seemed to saturate the Iron Dome. It looks like it just couldn't handle the volume of the attack. And some of those missiles, it looks like they hit their targets. Here's what it looked like.
Oh, God. Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside. Oh, God. Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
Very dangerous situation. So as I say, 180 estimated ballistic missiles. So this assault in retaliation for the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and others was aimed at various military and security targets across Israel. Despite the scale of the attack, reports suggest that Israeli air defenses, with assistance from Western allies, managed to mitigate substantial damage. The attack concluded roughly an hour after it began at around 7:30 p.m. local time. Now, we are getting reports tonight that an airfield, maybe even two airfields have been hit, and a substantial number of Israeli jets may have been destroyed. However, it looks like those reports are coming predominantly from Iranian and Russian sources, some of them of questionable credibility, I would say. So I'm trying to verify whether any of that is even true. Now, simultaneously, a terror attack shook Tel Aviv, where gunmen opened fire at a light rail station, resulting in at least 7 deaths and several injuries. This incident added to the chaos as sirens wailed and missiles lit up the night sky over Israel. The U.S. has been actively involved, with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stating that while the attack appeared largely ineffective, the situation remains fluid. Let's go to today's White House briefing, where Jake Sullivan has been first up. Let's hear what he has to say. And here we go to the White House.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to be really quick here. I have the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, to talk about the latest in the Middle East, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Corinne, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to provide a brief report on the Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel that occurred earlier today. I can take just a few questions because this is an ongoing situation and I need to get back to my desk. Today, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles towards targets in Israel. The United States military coordinated closely with the Israeli Defense Forces to help defend Israel against this attack. U.S. naval destroyers joined Israeli air defense units in firing interceptors to shoot down inbound missiles. President Biden and Vice President Harris monitored the attack and the response from the White House Situation Room, joined in person and remotely by their national security team. We are still working with the IDF and the authorities in Israel to assess the impact of the attack. But at this time, and I stress at this time, we do not know of any deaths in Israel. We are tracking the reported death of a Palestinian civilian in Jericho in the West Bank. We do not know of any damage to aircraft or strategic military assets in Israel. In short, based on what we know at this point, this attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. This was first and foremost the result of the professionalism of the IDF, but in no small part because of the skilled work of the U.S. military and meticulous joint planning in anticipation of the attack. We are also aware of reports of a terrorist attack in Jaffa that took the lives of a number of Israeli civilians and wounded several others today. Our condolences go out to the families of the victims and to the family of the Palestinian civilian in Jericho. Obviously, my update here is based on early reports, and we reserve the right to amend and adjust as necessary as we gather more information. The word fog of war was invented for a situation like this. This is a fluid situation. We will consult with the Israelis on next steps in terms of the response and how to deal with what Iran has just done, and we will continue to monitor for further threats and attacks from Iran and its proxies. We are particularly focused on protecting U.S. service members in the region. And with that, I'll take just a few questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Is the administration making any preparations to evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon or elsewhere in the region?
We have been very clear for some time now that U.S. citizens should avail themselves of commercial means to depart Lebanon, given everything that's going on. We have said that from this podium, from multiple podiums. We continue to say that, but we have not begun triggering a non-combatant emergency evacuation, a NEO, and do not have an intention to do so at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. But we continue to reinforce the point. American citizens in Lebanon should follow the guidance from the State Department, which is to find civilian commercial means to depart, because in extremis, we may not be able to get them out safely. Yes.
Thanks, Jake. What is the U.S. view on whether Israel should retaliate, and what is your concern about this leading to a wider escalation of war in the region?
We've had some initial discussions with the Israelis in the aftermath of this at the military level and also at the White House to Prime Minister's office level. We'll continue those conversations in the hours ahead. I'm not going to prejudge or get ahead of anything. We want to have some deep consultations with the Israelis, and I'll have more to report to you after we get the opportunity for deeper discussions.
And escalation in the region?
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward. Yeah.
Back in April, the president's message to Israel was to take the win when the U.S. and Israel were able to intercept the barrage of Iranian missiles. Is he recommending a similarly limited response this time?
I will not, from this podium, share the president's recommendations. He will have the opportunity to share them directly. We're going to have, as I said, ongoing consultations with the Israelis this afternoon, this evening. It is too early for me to tell you anything publicly in terms of our assessment or in terms of what our expectations are of the Israelis or the advice that we will give them.
So will he be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu today?
I don't have anything to announce from this podium, but I can tell you that he is tracking this minute by minute. We are very much deeply in touch with the Israelis, and insofar as we have calls to read out, we'll make sure to read them out with you. Just last question, then I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jake. In April, after Iran struck Israel, the U.S. issued a number of sanctions as a consequence. This morning, the president said there would be severe consequences if Iran carried out this attack. What are those consequences, and are they more severe than sanctions?
Totally legitimate question, and that answer will come based on the conversations and consultations we have with our Israeli counterparts. It's too soon for me to stand before you today and give you an answer. What I can tell you is this. We are proud of the actions that we've taken alongside Israel to protect and defend Israel. We have made clear that there will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. Okay.
So that's from the White House. And then also today, we saw what is characterized as terror attacks. I can show you what this looked like. At least 6 dead, maybe 7. And this footage shows a terror attack in Jaffa. 2 Palestinians, one with an assault rifle, another with a knife, on Tel Aviv's light rail. And a nearby street. Let's take a look here. And I may need to stop this partway through. I have not had time to fully vet this video, so if it's too graphic, I will pause it on the fly or dump out of it. Here we go. Okay, so you got the idea. We'll stop that video there and pull this down. Yeah. So that incident added to the chaos as sirens wailed, and then those missiles came over and the sky lit up. Both of those things happening at the same time. So the U.S. has been actively involved. As I said, we just heard from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. In response to these events, social media platforms have been flooded with reactions, of course. I'm sure you guys have a lot to say about this as well. Posts online are highlighting the gravity of the situation. Some users emphasizing the number of missiles, others looking at the civilian casualties, and others worried about the global implications of this aggression. Let's just take a look in the chat. Hello, Maverick family. How is everyone tonight? So, what's everybody saying about this? Any comments yet? Is anybody? It looks like maybe some people are fighting in there. Okay, yeah. I'll just keep my eyes open on the chat here for a minute or two. I'm gonna go over and check the chat in Rumble too. And so, of course, Johnny's kind of dominating the chat, but people are talking about everything but what I'm talking about. Is anybody even paying attention to me in there? I'm going to keep on going with the news of the day here. I can tell you the international community's response has been robust but mixed, with calls for de-escalation, of course, and concerns over the broader Middle Eastern situation. Calls for stability. In Canada, we've seen the Prime Minister condemn the attack by Israel, posting on social media. We've also seen Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre today come out and put pressure on the governing Liberals to take a more, I guess, how can I describe it, for a firmer stand one way or the other, come out against Iran. So far, it looks like the Canadian government is just sort of playing both sides off, one against the other. And in fact, I don't know if people here are even aware. Do you know, I'm going to ask you guys in the chat, do you know what kind of aid Canada is sending Israel? Are you guys aware of what the Canadian government is doing? I'm just going to look in the chat here in a moment. And then we're going to go to Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, who met with reporters at a scrum. Anybody any idea? Sandy says military aid, Rick. Isabel says probably nothing. Yeah. Canada has banned the sale of military aid to Israel. I don't know if people are aware of that, but they have. And I think, you know, when I think back to the Reagan era, boy, there was a president who would have responded in a much different way, I'll tell you that. Right now we have the Houthis attacking ships in the Red Sea, and the U.S. Navy is basically standing down, doing very little about it. Reagan would not have tolerated it. And Canada isn't the only one that has been pulling support from Israel. Other countries have as well, I believe. Even the United Kingdom has reduced substantially their aid, military aid. And when you show weakness, the vultures come out, the wolves. Okay, I lost my clip there, so I'm going to take a quick break and get it re-queued. I'll see you on the other side of this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so we're also going to update you on that confidence vote in the House today. It failed. We'll bring you up to date on that. So again, no early election. We'll tell you why. But let's go to Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, Canada, who is telling people if you can get a ride out of Lebanon, take it and don't go there.
Iran will only serve to further destabilize the region, and it must stop. I've been in contact with my Israeli counterpart and also with many foreign ministers from the G7 and Arab countries. This is a very dangerous time for the Middle East. And of course, our hearts and thoughts are with the people of the region. We're following everything very, very closely. I'll be later today in contact with the heads of mission that we have in the region. And of course, when it comes to consular services in Israel, we stand ready to help. Now let me talk to you about Lebanon and the evacuation. We have been able to get 200 Canadians out over the weekend. We also have another flight with 200 Canadians leaving Beirut today to go to Istanbul. 600 seats have been reserved, and we're also looking at more. And flights are all between Beirut and Istanbul. My point to all of us watching, if you are offered a seat, please take it. And it is time to leave Lebanon now. And please don't go to Lebanon. the reality is the seats that we have been securing have not all been taken. And so that's why I want to make sure that people listening to us or watching us know this very well, because we have 4,000 people that have asked information about departure. We've called, as of this morning, 1,700 of them. Only 50% have taken the offer. And I know it's a tough choice. I know that the situation is extremely difficult, but my priority is your security, and that's why if you're offered a seat, please take it. Donc, on a tous vu les attaques par l'Iran contre Israël, des attaques que, bien entendu, nous condamnons de façon non équivoque. Les attaques par l'Iran ont davantage déstabilisé la région. J'ai été en contact avec mon homologue israélien ce matin. C'est un moment très, très dangereux présentement au Proche-Orient. Et
not entirely credible. It's not really clear. Some suggest the missiles hit empty areas.
Je suis la situation de très près et bien entendu, nous sommes toujours prêts pour aider ceux et celles qui sont présentement
from what I'm seeing, I don't think the aircraft were destroyed. Certainly not in at the levels that those posts claimed. We'd hear more about it by now.
Quant au Liban, nous avons été capables de sortir maintenant via des vols commerciaux 200 Canadiens. 200 Canadiens qui ont été en mesure de quitter l'aéroport de Beyrouth au cours du week-end. Plus tard aujourd'hui, un autre contingent de 200 personnes va quitter l'aéroport de Beyrouth. Et nous avons 600 sièges qui ont été réservés. Tous les vols sont entre Beyrouth et Istanbul. Si on vous offre un siège, si on vous offre un billet, s'il vous plaît, prenez-le. La réalité, c'est que les offres qui ont été faites n'ont pas toutes été acceptées. Donc, à ce stade-ci, nous avons 4000 personnes qui ont demandé de l'information pour un départ assisté. Nous avons rejoint environ 1700 personnes par téléphone ou par Internet. Et seulement 50% d'entre eux ont accepté l'offre. Donc, je sais que c'est une situation difficile, je sais que c'est un choix difficile, mais s'il vous plaît, prenez cette offre-là parce que ma priorité comme ministre des Affaires étrangères est bien entendu votre sécurité. Et donc, c'est le temps de quitter et c'est le temps d'accepter
ce siège sort of being non-committal on this whole thing.
Et du reste, je suis là pour
when you're non-committal in the time of war as a government, you're still picking a side sometimes, right? Especially when there's an attack.
What did you say to him? What's Canada's message to Israel at this time?
So he reiterated his own position, which is basically Israel's right to defend itself. And that has been his position since. And so, and our position has been since that, of course, we need a ceasefire and we need this war to stop.
So how do you assess at this point then the risk to people, Canadians in particular in Lebanon, the risk of an all-out war and the risk to their own lives?
Well, right now we're seeing that there is a war. And we just saw that Iran attacked Israel. So, and there is also a war going on in Lebanon. So we are in a scenario where there is a war in the Middle East. And so that's why I just said this is a very dangerous time in the Middle East.
Is it Canada's position that Israel should not respond to Iran? I mean, you've called for a ceasefire vis-a-vis Hezbollah, but this attack from Iran, is Canada asking Israel not to respond in kind?
We need to make sure that there's no escalation. Of course, Israel needs to be able to protect itself, and that's why we'll continue to support its security, and we'll support, of course, through the Iron Dome. At the same time, we need to make sure that parties sit down and the war stops, because we can see that what will happen, there will be even more further escalation, more innocent civilians, including women and children, die, and that's what I said at the UN yesterday. We need this war to stop.
At the UN, you talked about demanding for peace in the Middle East. Do you feel a bit powerless now that it seems like situation's escalating? What control or power do you have in this situation?
I believe in diplomacy. I believe that it is possible to get to peace. I believe that we're in a moment where we need to save lives. That's my job. And my job is to reach out to also our like-minded, including, of course, the G7 foreign ministers, reaching out to Israel and making sure that there is de-escalation. And that's what I'll continue to do. That's Canada's job, and that's our voice in the world. En français?
Israël ne donne pas répliquer à l'Iran?
Moi, ce que je dis présentement, c'est que bien entendu, Israël doit être capable de se défendre. Mais ce qui est très, très important, c'est que la guerre cesse. Parce qu'il n'y a aucun scénario où ça va bien se finir.
Ça fait des semaines que vous appelez à une désescalade. Ce qu'on voit en ce moment, vous avez dit, c'est la guerre. On peut dire que c'est une escalade. Est-ce que vous êtes...
Okay. Let's, okay. Here we go.
Absolutely on all parties. Last week, we were on the verge of a ceasefire. No. That didn't happen. When I went to bed on Wednesday night, I was convinced that there was a ceasefire. And so,
she's naive.
Well, parties need to accept, and they need to engage in diplomacy. But right now, there's not happening between parties. And we're many of us around the G7, many other Arab foreign ministers, putting a lot of pressure. And that's why we need a ceasefire to happen, because at the end of the day, we need to have time to have these conversations. That's why last week we were trying to negotiate a ceasefire of 21 days in order to have peace talks and in order to save lives. And so at this point, that's why I'm calling for a ceasefire, because we need to make sure that ultimately these conversations happen and we save lives. Dernière question.
Quels sont les outils qui nous restent? Ça fait 1 an qu'on craint que le conflit dégénère, et là, le conflit dégénère. Qu'est-ce qui nous reste comme outil pour convaincre nos alliés et les autres? Dites-moi quels sont les outils, je comprends.
Ben, les outils, c'est encore et toujours la diplomatie, c'est encore et toujours de pousser nos interlocuteurs. Le Canada, nous, on n'a pas de conversation avec l'Iran. On n'a pas de relation diplomatique avec l'Iran. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on a des conversations avec des pays arabes qui ont des conversations diplomatiques avec l'Iran. C'est fondamental que cette guerre arrête. Merci. J'ai toujours espoir.
Okay, that's it. All right, that is it. Okay. Let's go back here. We've got a call for an emergency debate in the House of Commons tonight. I don't know if that's happening or not here. Let me just pull out of this while I check on that. I need to get the most up-to-date information for you. Hang on. I'll be right back.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay, so yes, there is tonight an emergency debate. I don't know if I will be able to hook into a feed for any of that or not. I will look for it. If I'm able to, I'll bring you some of that. Let me just check here. So that was the request for the emergency debate came from Heather McPherson, Member of Parliament. And I'll try to keep you up to date. Now, before we go anywhere else, this is the latest from the Israeli Defense Force. This is their statement just a short time ago. Let's go there, and we'll bring this up now. Here we go.
Of over 180 ballistic missiles directly from Iranian soil at the State of Israel. There were a small number of hits in the center of Israel and some other hits in the southern Israel. The majority of the incoming missiles were intercepted by Israel and a defensive coalition led by the United States. Iran's attack is a severe and dangerous escalation. There will be consequences. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are at the highest levels of readiness. Our operational plans are ready. We will respond wherever, whenever, and however we choose, in accordance with the directive of the government of Israel. Iran and its proxies have been attacking Israel since the 7th of October on 7 fronts. Iran and its proxies seek the destruction of Israel. The Israel Defense Forces will continue doing everything necessary to defend the state of Israel and protect the people of Israel.
And it is estimated that Hezbollah has launched somewhere around 8,000 rockets, 8,000 at Israel since October 7th. That's Hezbollah, not Hamas, Hezbollah. So it is a dangerous time, no question about it. But the Canadian government, pretty darn wishy-washy on the whole thing. And I think it's because they're playing politics at home. Canada, with a growing Muslim population, that Trudeau needs to get reelected desperately. And he's the one, with Jagmeet Singh, who has facilitated that type of immigration. And Iran has now issued a new video. The message, "We will come for you." And in a report just released by the New York Times, U.S. officials are saying Iran could launch more ballistic missiles at Israel at virtually any time now, maybe within hours. So all eyes remain affixed on the Middle East. And here's the latest propaganda video from Iran. And keep in mind, this is propaganda. Well, it's got a good beat and you can dance to it. But it doesn't look like they're looking for a ceasefire to me. Not from that, anyway, which is unfortunate. Now, what's Justin Trudeau have to say about this tonight? Let's take a look at his Twitter feed, shall we? X, I keep calling it Twitter. It will always be Twitter to me. Here's Trudeau's twittering. Right here, it says, Canada unequivocally condemns Iran's reckless attack against Israel, it puts innocent civilians at risk. We fully support Israel's right to defend itself against this attack, and we repeat our call for de-escalation across the region for the safety of all civilians. Posting in both English and French, of course. And that's the Prime Minister of Canada. And again, just checking in here, no further information on those reports of F-35s being destroyed by the missile attack against Israel. One of the posts suggested 20 F-35s have been destroyed. If that were the case, I think we would be hearing about it. I think so. Iran's defense minister says, quote, "We will respond in a more severe manner if Israel miscalculates." In other words, if Israel reacts, responds, and attacks Iran back, the message basically is the gloves are off. Kind of looks that way already to me. And Melanie Joly saying last Wednesday she thought they had a 21-day ceasefire all worked out. No, they didn't. I saw no indication of that. I know they were talking about it and that was on the table, but yeah, that wasn't going to happen and it didn't. So I don't know what meeting she went to, but sitting over here, it was very plain to me, way over here in Kazakhstan, that wasn't going to happen. Just wasn't going to happen. So dream on, Melanie. And I think she's actually one of Trudeau's stronger cabinet members, you know, in his inner circle. But not, you know, she's taking marching orders from Justin. I think at this point, no, I don't think there's any question about that. And from, you know, the more powerful people in Trudeau's circle, she's one of them, honestly. But this is not just of her making, and she was just delivering talking points today. That was her job. Here's the Minister of Defense for Iran. As I say, he's saying if Israel miscalculates, it's going to cost him. This is what he says. I think this is in, I don't think this is in
بله
English.
عملیات موشکی سپاه پاسداران هست. آیا قابل اعلامه که موش‌های بعدی هم یعنی در پیش هست و این رو میشه اینجا الان مطرح کرد؟ به چه صورت خواهد بود؟
بله ببینید این عملیات درس کردم یک عملیات متقابل در رابطه با شهادت اسماعیل هنیه بود. اما اگر پاسخی داده بشه یه موقع اشتباه محاسباتی داشته باشه رژیم صهیونیستی پاسخی بده احتمالی که ما عمل نشون بدیم بسیار زیاده و من اینم عرض کنم که این بخشی که الان انجام شد فقط گوشه ای از توانمندی های موشکی ما هست. ما هنوز بخش زیادی از توانمندی های موشکیمون که هم از لحاظ فناوری بسیار پیشرفته داره و هم از لحاظ شدت آسیبی که میتونه برسونه بسیار.
So I can't honestly tell from some of these videos how many of those missiles were hit and then broke into fragments and how many of them actually hit their targets as intended. I will say this, though, again, if we are not getting confirmation at this point of those jets having been destroyed, I don't think it's true. But whenever anything like this happens, the propaganda machine gets cranked right up. And they want people to think certain things. So they just come out with complete fabrications on these propaganda sites. You need to be very aware, very acutely tuned to that kind of information distribution, because that's true disinformation. It's malicious, and it's designed to gin up support for one side or the other. In this case, those kinds of reports, pro-Iranian, coming from Iranian and I would say Russian. I'm not going to call them news sources. They're propaganda sources for sure. So you can, that's why I say not really entirely credible. They put that stuff out there, and then sometimes it gets picked up even by credible, legitimate people, journalists who are trying to get truth out to people, and they get duped sometimes. And it's happened right here on this program where a couple of times I have inadvertently, unintentionally run video that I thought was authentic that was not, and shared information that was not accurate, but I always corrected. I've always run retractions and corrections as necessary. Fortunately, those occasions have been, not common. A couple of times caught in this very strange time we're in, challenging time, because it's just almost impossible, especially when you're one guy, to sift through all this stuff and figure out what's real and what is not. So we're still monitoring all this. Let's take another little break. We're going to come back. We're going to move on, talk about some other stuff. Specifically, we'll talk about the confidence vote in the House of Commons in Canada. Why? How did Trudeau survive another one? It looks like we're stuck with him a while longer yet. But don't fret. Don't fret, ladies and gentlemen. We will be going to the polls soon. An election, I can smell it in the air as sure as it's fall. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So again, the confidence motion tabled by Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party and the official opposition in Canada, trying to force an early election. If he had been supported by the Bloc Québécois and the NDP, the Trudeau government would have been forced to go to the Governor General, dissolve Parliament, and go to the polls. Didn't happen. Here's what happened during Question Period today in the House. Let's go listen.
Position. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal bloc, they have doubled the debt, increased taxes. After these 9 years, seniors are struggling to pay the bills. Record numbers of seniors have to go to food banks to eat. They're struggling to pay rent since the cost of housing has doubled. Their children and grandchildren can't buy a home like they would have been able to in other times. Will the government accept our common sense plan? We want to fix the budget and axe the tax so that our seniors can pay their bills with dignity. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, seniors in Canada remember very well what Conservative policy for seniors were. They remember that in Davos, Prime Minister Harper announced that he would increase the retirement age from 65 to 67. As for grandchildren, seniors support our national daycare program for their grandchildren. We will work for them and for their grandchildren. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois leader keeps picking fights and squabbling with the government of Quebec. Instead, he should be defending the nation of Quebec. But rather than doing so, he says he's happy that the forestry sector is under threat. Quebec's Environment Minister said the opposite, though. He said, I would like the Bloc Québécois to defend us more strongly than they are currently. Will the Prime Minister listen to those who really truly have common sense and permanently reverse this decree? The Honourable Public Services and Procurement Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader talks about squabbles. Well, he's picked a fight with each and every single municipality in Quebec. He's called mayors incompetent. Will he finally apologize for calling municipalities, their employees, incompetent? When he was Minister of Housing, he built a grand total of 6 housing units. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. I would ask you to please leave the floor to those who are recognized by the chair. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Carbon tax Carney became conflict of interest Carney when the Prime Minister named him to be effectively the phantom finance minister to advise on economic policy while he presides over a massive multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation that sought 10 billion Canadian tax dollars to take over our pension system. He's got a $2 billion loan for a friend, and now we learn that the economic task force he heads up has only one person. Isn't he a walking, talking conflict of interest?
Yeah. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are glad to get economic advice from smart former Canadian central bankers like Mark Carney and like Steve Pelosi, who is doing some great work advising us on how to encourage Canadian pension funds to invest more in Canada. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, on that side of the House, they get their foreign policy advice from Elon Musk and from Tucker Carlson. They should be ashamed of themselves. The people of Ukraine certainly know what's going on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, today the Premier, Mr. Speaker, today the very courageous and common sense Premier of New Brunswick launched a renewed lawsuit against the quadrupling carbon tax. He's pointing out that this carbon tax will force the layoff of nurses, doctors, and teachers because of the extra cost it imposes on operating schools and hospitals. Instead of requiring courts to decide on the quadrupling carbon tax, why won't the Prime Minister let the people decide in a carbon tax election?
Yeah. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
I am so glad that the Leader of the Opposition gives me an opportunity to talk about the price on pollution, because we made a great announcement just a few minutes ago, and that is that small businesses in the province of New Brunswick that he was talking about that have 499 employees are going to get rebates of $43,413. In the province of Ontario that we both represent, a business of 499 employees can get a rebate of nearly $300,000. They're going to get that money directly in their bank accounts by the end of the year.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Almost a year ago today, Tehran-backed terrorists unleashed the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Ever since, they've continued to push this genocidal aim. Today, hundreds of rockets came from Tehran towards Israel, forcing millions into shelter. 2 terrorist attacks carried out. This Prime Minister has talked out of both sides of his mouth, saying one thing to one group, the opposite to another. Will the Prime Minister state clearly that Israel has the right to defend itself by defeating Hezbollah, Hamas, the IRGC, and all the other terrorists?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we all seen the attacks by Iran against Israel today, and of course we condemn them unequivocally. These attacks from Iran will only serve to further escalate the region, and therefore that is why I've been in contact with my Israeli counterpart this morning, and I've been in contact with many G7 foreign ministers as well as Arab countries' foreign ministers. This is a very dangerous time for the Middle East, and we need to make sure that this war stops.
And ask the honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton, please, to only take the floor when he is recognized to do so.
The honourable member for La Prairie. If the Liberals don't want an election now, then they have to support all seniors equally and fairly. That's why seniors advocacy groups are here today on the Hill. The FADOC and its Mauricie branch, the AQDR, the Outaouais AQRP and AREQ, the Table de Concertation des Aînés des Laurentides, they're all here today to ask the federal government to stop having two classes of seniors. They're here to demand a 10% increase in OAS for those 74 and under. Will the government finally listen to them? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, we're shocked by what the Bloc Québécois is saying. Because what did they vote against? They voted against dental care, which is
blah 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 blah. We're going around in circles. You've heard it all before. You're hearing it again now. The Bloc, as you saw there, had its own opportunity to table an opposition day motion today. The party's only opposition day before Christmas, and what they wanted to do here is they want to push through Bill C-319, which proposes a 10% increase to old age security payouts for seniors aged 65 to 74. And they also want to ram through Bill C-282, which seeks to protect dairy, egg, and poultry farmers in future trade talks. So what's going on here really is you still have the NDP and the Bloc trying to squeeze the Liberal government, Justin Trudeau, to get whatever they want, to get as much as they can before they pull the rug out from underneath him and force an election. So Trudeau, if he wants to remain in power, he has to capitulate to the NDP and the Bloc, which gives them disproportionate levels of power with this minority government situation. It isn't, in my view, fair to Canadians because you have these smaller parties with more extreme views who want more extreme kinds of legislation put into place. They are the tail wagging the dog that they're supporting. Voters didn't vote for that, not in the numbers that warrant implementation of the policies that the Bloc and the NDP want, because those two parties don't have a mandate from the voters. Even a minority government has only a partial mandate from voters to proceed with their platform. That's why they have to make deals with the other parties. But what's happening here and what has been happening with this minority government under Trudeau is the NDP, largely because of their supply and confidence agreement that has propped Trudeau up and kept him in power with a minority government. You've got a situation where the NDP has been getting pretty much everything it wants. Everything Jagmeet Singh wants. That's having a direct and major impact even on things like immigration. It isn't just the Liberals. It's more the NDP. this coalition government, it's been pulled way, way, way over to the left into extreme collectivism, extreme socialism, in my view, because the NDP is controlling Trudeau. Now, he has free will, but in order to just hold on to power and get some of the stuff that he wants, he has to bend the knee to Jagmeet Singh. That's what's going on. And it's still going on, even though the supply and confidence agreement was rescinded. Jagmeet Singh said no more. But as we know, that was really, I guess, just window dressing for that by-election out west. In order to, I think it was in Winnipeg, just so that his party would look good. And they got their seat. They got their guy elected out there. And now they're just right back to the same old game. Prop up Trudeau. Keep it going. Jagmeet still has his Rolex. So, another important story is what's going on with this dock workers strike. Dock workers from Maine to Texas have now joined their Canadian counterparts on strike, bringing a fresh wave of labor action to ports across North America. Workers at 36 U.S. ports walked off the job earlier today, demanding fair wages and protections against automation. This comes after the contract between the ports and about 45,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association expired at midnight. At the Port of Philadelphia, dock workers could be seen marching and chanting for a fair contract, holding signs that read, "Automation hurts families." ILA stands for job protection. Now, this is the first strike by the union since 1977. The U.S. Maritime Alliance, representing the ports, said yesterday, that both sides had adjusted their wage offers, but no deal has been reached. Now, President Biden weighed in, urging the ports to negotiate fairly, citing record profits since the pandemic and calling for workers to share in those benefits. He also warned against price gouging by foreign-owned carriers. Meanwhile, here in Canada, dock workers at the Port of Montreal began a 72-hour strike yesterday, halting operations at two terminals responsible for nearly 40% of the port's container traffic. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says the strike is a push for better wages and regular schedules. With the U.S. presidential election just weeks away and both countries' economies feeling the pressure of high interest rates, these strikes could disrupt supply chains further. Analysts warn that a prolonged strike could lead to rising prices and shortages of essential goods, including perishable items, automotive parts, and chemicals. In addition, we did see a jump in oil prices today because of Iran's missile strike against Israel, which has further destabilized the oil-rich Middle East. Business groups on both sides of the border are expressing concern about the potential long-term impact, with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce warning that any significant disruption could jeopardize the livelihoods of workers in multiple industries here in Canada. So we're closely monitoring this situation, and the ultimate outcome will likely depend on how quickly both sides can reach an agreement. Very, very, very serious situation for the economy, for you, for me, for the price of all our regular everyday stuff that we get at the grocery store and more. Now, what else do we have to talk about? Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a little break here. And before we do that, I will just remind you that you can support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. freedomreporters.com. Right there, freedomreporters.com. And You can also donate at maverickdonations.com. If you donate $10 or more, I'll send you the Free Dog album 10-song collection. $30 or more, and I'll send you a t-shirt, a Maverick News t-shirt, or a fighting, Donald Trump fighting t-shirt, or a Knights of Malta t-shirt. We also have these, I have limited edition Maverick News hoodies, and I am always saying you can have it in any color you want as long as it's black, but I have only a couple, I think 3 of these in blue with an embroidered Maverick News logo right there. Very, very nice. I've got them in medium, large, and double extra large. So hurry, hurry. They won't last because we only have, I think, only 3. So those are available as well. Also, we have these polo shirts. Really nice. And again, with an embroidered Maverick News logo right there. And I also have this. I only have one of these. We had one of these a few weeks back, and I've got another one here now. And this is good for anybody. You could even, this would make a great gift for someone. Let me just show you what we've got. It's a professional mechanics socket set. Stanley. I have one myself. I use it all the time. And it's great. 60-piece set. It's perfect. It's small enough. You carry it around. I take it out. Take the whole set out with me when I'm working on my cars, my old beaters, the old ones. That's all I've got. It's this right here. So it's the same as this one on Amazon, listed at $84 and change. Now tonight, I've only got one. So anybody that donates, that the highest donation tonight above $60, and I will send you this Stanley Professional Mechanics 60-piece socket set, and it's got a lifetime warranty. So there you go. We've got one of those for you. So whoever donates more than 60, the most tonight, I'll send that out to you as a big thank you. If you would like to have that, that's all you have to do, to the highest donator tonight on the Maverick News program. And I'll tell you, it is the beginning of the month. We came up kind of short last month, and we really could use your help. So that's why I'm putting a little extra time in tonight, plugging. We need some help paying the bills here this month. So would really appreciate, as always, the support. And you can do that at maverickdonations.com, which is the Give, Send, Go, or at freedomreporters.com right there, which is the PayPal. Just make sure you tell me exactly what it is you want in the comment section when you can send a message making the donation. Simple as that. So thank you, everybody. And Tinker, yesterday, after the program, I noticed in the chat, you asked a question. Did I get your package? No, I have not seen it yet. That's not to say it isn't there. It's just that we don't get delivery of mail to the house or to the office here. So I have to go to like a super box, and I can't get out there every day because I'm just so darn busy. So it might be sitting in there tonight. So Tinker, thank you for whatever it is that you've sent. I will keep an eye open for it. Might be sitting there right now. I don't know, but I've not seen it yet. So I'm looking forward to the surprise, whatever that might be. And you can join the conversation as well at 4011373. And we will be going to the Walz-Vance debate at 9 p.m. live. When we do that, though, I will be pulling off YouTube, and we will be going over to, we'll only leave it on the other platforms. So I'll put the link to the Rumble channel in the chat for YouTube in a few moments, so that anybody that wants to stick with us who's on YouTube for the watch party can participate over there on Rumble. Yeah, Pork Leaker says, pork leaker? I wonder what that means. I don't know what that means. Suspicious package. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything nefarious. Isabel says, Rick, you will laugh when you get it. Okay. Good. Oh, my. Yeah, I was just looking at the chat in here. Yeah, different. Oh, John, he says, do you still have the Corvette? No. I did have a Corvette, but I sold that Corvette. I restored that car and put that was a lesson in how to lose money. Okay, bad news. If you're going to get an old classic car, you're much further ahead buying one that's already restored, usually, than restoring it yourself. Anyway, I sold that car because I needed the money, frankly. And I have to say, that was my dream from the time I was a kid, was to have that car. And I got it, and I have to tell you, I was very disappointed in it. It never, ever, ever lived up to my expectations or what I thought it was going to be like to own the thing. It was a giant letdown. And in the end, it was like, I liked it kind of, right? It was a cool looking car, but man, it just wasn't anything like I thought it was going to be, like owning a Corvette, which I thought was going to be really, really cool. And that the car would perform like crazy, but it really, it didn't. I'll tell you, all I have now is an old Volkswagen Golf City. It's like base, right? As basic as you can get. It's old. I bought it on the as-is lot at a car dealer. It needed to be repaired. I've had the thing now for got to be 5 years. And I fixed it up, and I've just been driving it ever since. I think I paid $1,000 for it, and it hardly gives me a lick of trouble. It's been one of the best cars I've ever owned, and it's way better than the Corvette. I love the thing. I love it. I just love that car. Gotta say. And I was never a Volkswagen fan before, but this thing, I've kind of become attached to it. That's what I drive. You know why? Those old cars, we talk about freedom around here. When I was a kid, I got a bike, right? I don't throw things away either. In fact, I had to ride my bike today. I have the same bike today that my mom bought me as a birthday gift when I was 14 years old. An old 10-speed bicycle. I still have it. And I rode that bike today, as a matter of fact. And same thing with these old cars. I like to have old cars that don't cost much, if any, money, because I'm not going into debt for like 50 grand or 100 grand to drive around in some fancy newfangled machine. No debt, no slavery, no worry. And that's freedom. I have my car, I'm mobile, it's paid for. I don't have a monthly payment on it, except for the expenses of running it, of course. And to me, that's freedom. I'm not beholden to anybody for that thing. And the car's not beholden to me because it owes me nothing. That's true freedom. And then because I have the ability to fix these things quite often on my own, and some of the heavier stuff, if it needs to lift wood, I have a place where I go and I get the help I need to get the thing repaired. But that's true freedom. That's what it is, man. And I've got an old 1996 Honda Civic, again, base model, and I'm fixing that thing up right now. Got that for $500, and runs great. It's only halfway through its life, and when I'm done with all the bodywork and stuff, it'll be a respectable little car. And I've had all these people coming over trying to buy it from me. Anyway, I love these old cars, man. They're cheap, 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 and that's all I can afford because I ain't got no cash. So I'm living the life of a starving journalist these days, an independent starving journalist, and it's been that way for quite a while. There's no big government money here, no network money here, no CBC, CTV, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, blah, blah, blah money. Not here. No BBC, RT, none of that. But that's okay because I have a 2007 Volkswagen Golf City that I bought for $1,000 and is probably worth $200 now. Yeah, that's okay because you know why? You know what the other great thing about it is? I parked it on the street, and the kids across the street were out on the street playing baseball, and it got hit in the back door with a ball, and it put a dent in it. And you know what? I don't care. It's okay with me. And I like the kids out there playing. It injects real life into the neighborhood when I hear those kids out on the street playing, and I hear their voices. And sometimes I go for a walk, and I just walk by them, and I've got Cosmo, the super dog, with me, and I just look over, and it just brings back all the memories, whether they're playing catch or baseball on our little cul-de-sac street here, or street hockey, and I'm like, yeah, man, those were the days. Those were the days in Canada before we became Kanakistan.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
Okay, and because I've been talking about Kanakistan and the Free Dog album, I'm going to play Kanakistan for you here from the album. Let me get the appropriate graphic up on the screen with our mascot's face front and center, because Cosmo, the Maverick mascot, my best friend, my canine companion, he's such a ham. Here it is. Here's Kanakistan from the Free Dog album.
Now shadowed by chains and a land misunderstood. The calling can never stand, a name born in jest. But beneath the surface there's a nation oppressed. Oh, Kanakistan, hear the call of the Knights rise, for liberty we'll see. From the grip of tyranny, we'll break the chains, restoring dominion. In our hearts it remains. The communist whispers, fascist boots on the ground. The old flag's been lowered, but in our hearts it's found. The spirit of Canada, they thought they could erase, but in every heart there's a spark of hidden grace. Oh, can you stand here, the call of the free? The Maverick Knights rise, for liberty we'll see. From the grip of tyranny, we'll break the chains, restoring dominion. In our hearts it remains. Through the dark of nights, under the northern lights, we whisper our stories, keep our spirits bright. For every step they take, we'll take two in stride. With courage and honor, we'll turn the tide. Voices start to blend, a chorus of freedom from every end. The Maverick Knights with hearts so bold, fight for the land, the stories untold. Oh, can you stand here, the call of the free? The Maverick Knights rise, for liberty we'll see. From the grip of tyranny, we'll break the chains, restoring dominion. In our hearts it remains. So here's to Canuchistan, a land we'll reclaim. With every breath we take, we'll fan the flame. For Canada's glory, we'll stand and fight till the dawn of freedom in the morning light. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day when like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting old and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With Maverick through fields, breaking all the lanes. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
And this is what's happening in our country. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I am the president. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
Okay, and I don't know what to expect from tonight's vice presidential debate. Will we get anything comparable to the eating the dogs and cats commentary that went viral after the last one? I somehow doubt it, but I don't know, especially with Walz. He's just a bundle of energy, over-the-top positivity that comes off kind of weird. I don't know what to make of him, honestly. And Vance, there's a guy who just, I don't know about him either. He seems almost manufactured to me. The jury is still out on him as far as I'm concerned. I haven't warmed up to him at all. Not really. Walz and Vance going to face off in about a half an hour's time. The debate tonight is expected to last about 90 minutes. It's going to be hosted by CBS News. It's taking place at the network's Manhattan headquarters. Should be something of a spectacle, I think. I know that the people prepping Vance have indicated that there is, what was it? Vance said, or Walz indicated that he had been to Tiananmen Square, that he was there at the time, or something to that effect. And the Vance camp, there he is. There's a phrase for you. The Vance camp has come out today in advance of the debate saying they are questioning whether he really was there at the time. So that might become something of an issue. I'm not sure why that is so important to the campaign. I guess just a credibility issue. There might be more to it. We'll see what happens during the debate tonight. Was he lying about it? Mistaken? Is it a big issue? How would he respond? Is that going to be the central issue tonight? I kind of doubt it. But who would have thought that the dog and cat issue would have stolen the show at the last debate between Trump and Harris? Now, Trump tonight is in Milwaukee for a rally, a campaign event. And Harris's husband, second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, he was also in Milwaukee earlier today. President Biden and Vice President Harris are in Washington. They've been receiving briefings on Iran's attack against Israel. So that's where they are this evening. And Biden and Harris also announced separately that they will travel tomorrow to areas that have been hit hard by the hurricane Helene. And I know there's a lot of talk on social media about the level of relief or lack of relief coming from the federal government to victims of the hurricane. I do know that there is relief available. Whether it's adequate, that's another question. Some of the posts that I've seen, though, saying there's no relief, that's not true. There is some relief. So, folks, if you're out there and you're watching this and you're one of those people who needs help, you go online or you get somebody to go online for you and you'll get the information you need. There are places you can go to get the assistance that you need, at least initially, I think. Whether that's going to be adequate in the long run, that's a whole other ball of wax. But it's not like there's nothing out there. And the relief efforts to clean up, the efforts to just get people back up and running and get back up on their feet again after this devastating storm continue today. So we've got all that going on. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell says search and rescue teams have been deployed with efforts underway to restore communications. And more than 3,300 personnel from federal agencies are on the ground, and the damage could make this one of the most expensive storms in U.S. history. Now, I think we've now seen at least 77 deaths in North Carolina and 36 in South Carolina and 25 in Georgia, plus 13 in Florida, 8 in Tennessee, and 2 in Virginia confirmed. So Hurricane Helene made landfall, last Thursday in Florida's Big Bend region. 140 mile per hour winds and storm surges up to 15 feet. Entire communities have been wiped out. In Keaton Beach, Florida, 90% of homes are gone. And after slamming Florida, the storm moved north into Georgia, where Governor Brian Kemp described the scene as looking like a bomb went off. Homes were splintered, debris covered highways. The storm then drenched the Carolinas and Tennessee. Western North Carolina was hit hardest, with some areas receiving over 30 inches of rain. 30 inches. Straining dams, flooding communities. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper calls it an unprecedented tragedy requiring an unprecedented response, and warns more fatalities are likely as rescue teams continue to work and make efforts to reach isolated areas. Search and rescue operations are still active, ongoing, especially in the mountains of West North Carolina. Emergency officials described flooding there as biblical, with some calling it the region's Hurricane Katrina. Entire towns remain cut off, with hundreds of thousands of people without power and communications down. At the height of the flooding, waters reached the rooftops of homes. We showed you video of that last night. 180-year-old Swannanoa resident says this is the worst devastation she's seen in her lifetime. I saw that online video. So essential supplies are being airlifted to the hardest hit areas to get help to people who need it. Roads throughout the western part of the state are closed to all but emergency vehicles. As I say, the efforts there continue, and we'll continue to monitor that in the days ahead as well. Now, I know that some people, I'm told, would like to help the channel out, but they don't want to donate online. They'd rather do it by snail mail. And if you'd like to do that, you can send donations to 4 Clover Place, Chatham, Ontario, Canada. N7L5G5. It's right there on the bottom of the screen. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. From the bottom of my heart for the support, folks. Truly, truly appreciate it. So we're now, about 22 minutes away from the vice presidential debate. And here's, this caught my eye today because we've talked about chemtrails on this program before. And you know who's kind of getting some flack because of comments about chemtrails? Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta. Yeah. Premier of Alberta catching flack. She made a comment about chemtrails, and now social media is on fire. Hang on, I'm going to bring that to you in a moment, and there's another political element to all of that too, the whole chemtrail thing. So I'll share it with you on the other side of this. Do not go away.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets publishing the same fakely are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so there's this story that, as I say, it caught my attention. It's Danielle Smith, United Conservative Party, out in the province of Alberta. She's the premier, for those of you who are not aware, especially our U.S. viewers and listeners. So here's the news story. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith comes under fire for comments about chemtrails. So her office says her recent comment about chemtrails doesn't mean she believes the United States government is spraying them in the province. A spokesperson for the Premier, Savannah Johansson, says Smith was simply sharing what she has heard from Albertans. So I went looking for this clip, and I found it. She was at a UCP event, I think. Where was she speaking? I'm not exactly sure what the event was. It doesn't really even stipulate what that is here either, but I found the clip. So, anyway, I'm going to share it with you. Yeah, I have a different take on this than the mainstream media and her critics. I like Danielle Smith. personally, I'm just saying. That's just me. Okay? And I know some people are like frustrated because she got elected and she hasn't done everything that they want her to do. But I think she's doing her best. And I think she's been a pretty effective leader so far. She also knows how to walk on thin ice. And that's where she is right here in this clip. When she's asked about chemtrails by somebody asking questions from the audience. Here, listen to this.
The best I have been able to do is talk to the woman who is responsible for controlling the airspace, and she says no one is allowed to go up and spray anything in the air. We have she's told me, the other person told me that if anyone is doing it, it's the U.S. Department of Defense. And, I have some limitations in what I can do in my job. I don't know that I would have much power if that is the case, if the U.S. Department of Defense is spraying us. So I will do what I can to investigate, but everywhere I've gone, I have found no evidence that there's any private sector company involved. My environment department's not involved. My airports tell me that they have a record of every single plane that goes up. So I'm kind of dead-ended here. If you have some special lead that you want to give me afterwards, please let me know and I'll track it down.
Okay. My take is she's being truthful. I think she's telling you that it's not happening, that it's not chemtrails that you're seeing in the sky. They're contrails. She can't find any evidence of it. She's the premier. She has access to the information. She can get access to a lot more information than the average person. She's talking to people and soliciting that data, information, if any, evidence, and she can't find any, even as Premier of Alberta. So she's telling you she doesn't think it's there, but she's trying to be respectful. This is my take. I think she's just trying to be respectful and acknowledge the question, answer it in the best way she possibly can. She's a politician. She's not going to come out and say something like, there's no such thing as chemtrails, you're crazy. She's not going to say that. So she said what she said. But then the media, the mainstream media, picks up what she says, and they're trying to portray her as being a nutbar, when she's just being respectful and saying, hey, if you have information, evidence, or a lead, send it to me and I'll check it out. And I believe she would. If there was any evidence that anybody, the U.S. Department of Defense, if they were actually up there spraying something over Alberta, I think she would try to get to the bottom of it, if there was any evidence of that kind of activity at all. So, yeah. I've put out similar challenges here in the past, asking people, well, if you think this is going on, then send me some real evidence, some real leads, and I'll look at it. If I can verify it, whatever the story might be, then I'll touch on it. She's not the only politician, though, talking about chemtrails. You know who talks about them a lot? A lot. RFK Jr. Yeah, the communist infiltrator of the MAGA campaign. I'm just saying. Just saying. Yeah. I mean, this is also why I don't think the Comrade Kamala thing is working at all. But I can comment more on that on the other side of this. Here's RFK Jr. talking about chemtrails. Oh, that's still Danielle Smith. We need to switch gears here and give you RFK Jr. This is just recent. And I went and I found a bunch of other comments that he's made on chemtrails. And from the past, this was at that event where he appeared with Tulsi Gabbard on stage. And I'm just saying, he talks about it quite a bit. I'm surprised, honestly, that there wasn't more media attention focused on this, but I think the mainstream media pretty much has dismissed him as having any kind of influence over what's really going on here, but I think they're wrong. I think that he's having, just like Jagmeet Singh with Justin Trudeau, I think he's having a disproportionate level of influence within the MAGA campaign right now. Makes me squirm a little bit, because he was a lifelong Democrat, comes from the left, he is on the left, he's very left. I would say if he's not a communist, he's the closest thing that socialism provides. Here he is talking about chemtrails.
On day one, we're going to declare an emergency like we did in COVID.
I don't want an emergency like COVID.
It's going to be a chronic disease emergency, and we're going to get the fluoride out of the water. We're going to get the chemicals out of the food. We're going to get the chemtrails out, the chemicals out of the chemtrails, and there's 1,000 ingredients in our food that are banned in Europe, and we're going to get rid of all those chemicals. And I know how to do it, and
All right. Do you guys know why they put fluoride in the water? Does anybody know why they put fluoride in the water? Like, what's the reasoning? Halo says, my water glows green. What's it to you? Yeah, for your teeth. That's right. Richard says for your teeth. It's true. And I have to tell you, I'm a fluoride baby, right? I think my people in my age bracket, we were among the first to grow up with fluoride in the water. You know how many cavities I have? This is an inside trivia question that you can take to you can share in the future. How many cavities does Rick Walker have in his oral cavity? Any? Okay. Guesses. How many cavities do I have? How healthy is my mouth? For teeth gums, that's right, Jubilee, that's quite right. How many cavities do I have? Any guesses? Because that's why they put it in the water. It's Dog Mom says 4. Lindy Big says none, and that is correct, Lindy. I have 0. Did I tell you that before? None. That's right, Isabel. I have no cavities. No cavities at all. I'm so happy about that. But here's a little piece of information. I talked to a dentist years ago about fluoride in the water, and here's something very interesting. If you look at the children of people like myself who were the first to be exposed to fluoride, and then so my kids, and I don't know if my kids were like this or not, but some children of people who were the first to be exposed to fluoride in water, what they end up with is you'll see little marks on their teeth sometimes. Not all the teeth, but sometimes like a little white spot that's just a little bit brighter than the rest of the tooth. And that's from something going on with the water, the fluoride in the water, and then the next generation. You get that. It doesn't hurt anything, but that's what happens. And you don't get that, of course, if you're like a first-generation fluoride kid like I was. So anyway, I survived. I have no cavities, 0. And as a result of that, I'm told that people like myself may go to the grave without ever having a single cavity their whole life, which contributes to other kinds of health benefits. So there are pros and cons to that whole issue, and I know that some people have concerns about other possible health side effects, but like everything else, it's not black and white. Shades of gray, positives and negatives, pros and cons. Yeah, DC12300. That's right, I have no cavities. Anybody else out there like me? Anybody else have no cavities? Cavity free? But I also take care of my teeth. I brush my teeth, always have since I was a kid, regularly. Regular. Now, I am pretty weird, so that might, the fluoride, maybe it's made me weird. Sammy says, I have cavities in every teeth, and they made me eat fluoride pills when I was a child. Is that right? I've never heard of that. Fluoride pills? Oh, maybe because they didn't have fluoride in your water? Maybe that's why they did that? That's interesting. I've not heard of that before. But of course, that's why they put fluoride in your toothpaste, too. That's why they put fluoride in your toothpaste. You know, if RFK Jr. ever ends up in the White House, he'll go to war. He'll start to hack, slash, and destroy a lot of what is just commonplace in America. He's gonna hack and slash at companies. He's gonna hack and slash at the budget. And you know what he wanted to do is, if he got elected to the defense budget, he was gonna hack it in half. He wants to slash American defense spending, period, like across the board, 50%. I think right now that would be very unwise given how unstable the world is. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. In my view, with the way everything is so volatile right now, the last thing you want to be doing is hacking your defense budget down so that you become less protected. If anything, you know, like Reagan, I think going from how many ships does the U.S. Navy have? 300 and something. I think you should double the size of that, especially right now. Strength, or peace through strength, rather. And then after you get to that place, then you can have strength through peace because you'll have stability. Yeah, Christina, no cavities, just 2 cracked teeth. Going to the dentist this week. There you go. Yeah. And Sammy says, yes, fluoride pills were distributed to children in schools in the early 2000s. Oh, well, there's another story. Wasn't aware of that. I learned something here tonight. And Alicia says, ended in the 70s in Canada because it was causing cavities? I don't know what that means. What was ended? Fluoride didn't cause cavities. It prevents cavities. Alicia says, I never had a cavity till I started going to the dentist at 60. They started cleaning my teeth right off cavities. Ah. Yeah, maybe. If they're scraping too hard, maybe going right through the enamel if they don't do it right. Sometimes when they do that crunching stuff with the the steel tools, I wonder sometimes if it's actually good for your teeth, you know? But I guess they know what they're doing. And yeah, I go to the dentist regularly too. I always have. So I go get my cleanings and I get checked and I brush all the time, every day. I brush my teeth, make sure they're clean, keep them clean. And good oral health contributes to other good health overall, because bad oral health has been linked to even things like heart disease. Plus, if you don't have teeth, it makes it difficult to eat. It can affect your health in a wide range of other ways, so it is important. So, just something to keep in mind. Okay, I'm going to get that link ready. I'm going to put it in the chat in a minute for the Rumble channel, and we will seek out the feed here for the Vance-Walz debate, which begins momentarily right here on the Maverick News channel. Stay with me. I'm going to get it all set up. Here we go.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go live now and pick up the simulcast with CBS. Let's pick this up, and this will be our watch party tonight. All right, here we go.
We are ready to continue to build the future together. We're to turn this whole country red with President Donald J. Trump's leadership.
You know what's at the end of this little journey? Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States.
Bye, YouTube. Thank you.
This is a CBS